Welcome. Let's look at strategies in strategic management. And when we'll say strategies in strategic management, we have the growth strategies, we have the stability strategies, and we have the retrenchment strategies. So we'll explore this. And now let's go to our Google Classroom. And in the Google Classroom, we actually click the element there, general strategies. So the first group of strategies in strategic management are actually growth strategies. And note, in growth strategies, we'll be explaining some terminologies like vertical integration, which is the degree to which the firm owns its suppliers and its retailers. So, for example, if you are running a shop, perhaps you have retailers and you have suppliers. And to what extent do you supply yourself some of the things? To what extent do you actually do retailing or selling some of the things by yourself? Because at times you may have a shop, but you may have someone who takes the goods from your shop and sells. So they buy from you and sell. But you could be having a branch. And in that branch, therefore, we are saying, to what extent are you having that kind of relationship, the vertical integration? Now, let's look at the first scenario of growth strategies. The first scenario is backward integration. And in this, we'll explain the two, backward integration and forward integration. Now, backward integration has to do with if you are an organization and you are selling some products, you're asking yourself, are you supplying yourself those products? For example, I think I've given an example there of a cafeteria which did not cultivate its own potatoes and did not rear its own chickens. When it begins to do so, and assuming the responsibility of the supplier, then it is actually doing backward integration. So it's actually moving a step back to start supplying itself with its some let's say raw materials. That is backward integration. Now, forward integration has to do with now moving ahead to the retailer. So a cafeteria that did not have many resources, so it only prepared food, but it made retailers to sell the food on its behalf, and has now done away with the retailers. So that one, therefore, is doing forward integration. So an organization can have a growth strategy in terms of backward integration, assuming the role of the supplier, or it can have a forward integration where it is actually taking over the role of the retailers. That is actually a forward integration. And an organization can actually have both of these strategies running concurrently. Now, the second perhaps is just to explain that scenario. So in scenario number one, when we have said no integration, so we have the raw materials, we have the potatoes, chicken, and so on. Now, the role of this organization was kitchen work, so cooking. Now, if they now take the responsibility of planting potatoes, raising chicken, then now they are doing what? Then now they are doing actually backward integration. Okay, and when now, so they didn't have anyone to distribute. Now, in this case, they are actually taking now the responsibility of the distribution network, taking the responsibility of the retailer. That is actually forward integration. Now, let's look at horizontal integration. Horizontal integration has to do with expanding to other geographical areas, geographical location. So you want by also increasing a range of products. So for example, if you want to you're an organization that is running in Nairobi and you want to open now in Arusha, in Tanzania, you want to open in Uganda, you want to open even in perhaps another other parts of Nairobi, then you are doing actually horizontal integration. If the Institute of Social Transformation expands its programs, because it's also a range of products here, so if it expands its products, then it's doing actually horizontal integration. If it's offering distant learning, then it's doing actually horizontal integration. If it's offering programs, its product lines, expanding them from on campus to off campus or online program, then it's doing actually horizontal integration. Now let's look at the third. So the third is concentric growth, and this is growth when you are expanding your business in the area that relates to your core business. So you are an education institution, and perhaps you are running a university, higher education, and then you still move on to open a school. Then you're actually doing growth in terms of concentric growth as a strategy. So I say there, if Tangaza College acquires this Light Academy or Nairobi Academy, it is therefore growing to related to its business, the core business of education. If Telecom Kenya expands to wireless as it did in the past, then it actually did a concentric growth. It actually expanded to an area that is related to their core business, which is actually the phone business. Now, let's look at the other contra to that is conglomerate growth. This is growth that is unrelated to your core business. So, for example, I think in the olden days, there was this bus called a Kamba Bus Company, whose main business was transporting people from point A to point Z. And then later on, they grew into transporting parcels. Parcels and people are not actually related. So I would say, therefore, they did conglomerate growth, growing into an area that is not related to the core business of transporting people. Now, also, let's look at the post office as perhaps an example, because these are really traditional organizations. Their main business was processing and delivering of mail, okay, and parcels. That's their core business. Now, I think today you find that they have started to be points of where one can pay electricity. Okay, I think at one point that was the case. That is really not core to their business. So they're actually doing conglomerate growth to an area that's not related to your core business. The third example is about Safaricom provider. Their main business is telephone, making phone calls, SMS, and so on. But now they expanded to the money transferring platforms, actually the business of banks. When now they moved to that, then now they actually did conglomerate growth, moving to a business that is not core to their actual core business. So moving to a business that are not related. Now let's look at the other strategy. So basically what we looked at those all growth strategies. Backward integration, forward integration, horizontal integration, and we looked at conglomerate growth, we looked at concentric growth, but now we want to look at the stability strategies. What are these actually stability strategies? So stability strategies, actually, some authors argue that it's not a strategy on its own. They are not strategies on their own. So it's not a strategy by itself, but it's just a pause between strategies. It is a strategy by default, a short term. It is a time out strategy. Now, think about those that play volleyball. Is it volleyball or yes, that's volleyball. whereby when you find that your team is not doing well, then you actually raise your hand. You say, well, you want actually to re-strategize yourself. So you raise your hand through the umpire. You say, well, you want to actually pause in view of reorganizing yourself, so that you can actually perhaps put the right people in the right places so that you can win the game. And that is a stability strategy. So it is used when things are actually worse, okay, in worsening situations. So, and the times you say in the worsening situations, you just want to pause to see what things will be like, what the situation will be like, so that you can now move in a different strategy. And now this can take the strategy of growth, or it can also take a strategy that we are coming now to see retrenchment, where you want to say, well, you want to curtail the services and so on. But this is really a pause between strategies. And that's the argument of many authors. Now, let's look at the final strategy, which is actually retrenchment strategy. Basically, as the word states, it's really cutting down or scaling down your organization. So when an organization has weak competitive position in some or all its product line, resulting in poor performance, or when they see that the sales are going down, the profits are becoming losses resulting from stiff competition, then, or there is a lot of inefficiency, then actually they have to do these retrenchment strategies. So before that, they have to do a turn-around strategy. They have to look at the operations of the organizations to ask themselves, where are the taps leaking? Where is it that they are not doing very well, so that they can actually improve? And then we'll pick this again, the retrenchment strategy, in one of our next classes. So that, yeah, pick this. So retrenchment strategies, really, before that, you have to use turn-around strategy or operational efficiency. So looking at how your operations efficiencies, where can you improve before you actually close down, okay? Or use captive company strategy, whereby you actually ask other organizations to actually run your organization on your behalf. So you are actually giving up your independence for security. And there are some organizations that have done that, to say, well, now they cannot operate on their own. They need someone actually to run their organization. And then the third bit of retrenchment strategy is you may have to sell out your organization. You may have to sell out the product line or your branch, as some organizations have done, selling out a branch because they cannot actually manage it. So you're selling out, or leave the organization completely, or sell out the one that is unproductive. You sell that one out. And then finally, you may also apply for bankruptcy protection, whereby you give up the management of the firm to the courts in return for settlements of corporation obligations. So you say, well, please, suppliers, don't harass me. I'm giving up my my management of the farm, so that the laws actually take care of that.